You're listening to the Visibly Fit podcast. Hey, I'm your host, Wendie Pett, and every week I'll give you holistic, practical solutions for everyday issues related to nutrition, healing, functional fitness, and behavior modifications. As a naturopath, fitness expert, and wellness coach for over 20 years, my goal is to empower you to reach for greater health and to rise up to your next level of living in mind, body, and spirit. You were created with greatness in mind. It's time to own it. Are you with me? Then let's dive in. According to a recent finding, 80% of men deal with hair loss and 50% of women suffer from hair loss. If this is you, or maybe you know someone that deals with hair loss, then you are going to want to tune in to this episode of Visibly Fit. I'm your host, Wendie Pett. Yes, it can be debilitating on some levels for many people that experience hair loss, but there is hope. And that's why I have the person I have on today. His name is Mahryah Shain, and he was born in California. He is the CEO of More Hair Naturally, the world leader in all natural solutions for thinning hair. Finally, a natural solution. There's so many chemical type solutions, but a natural solution is what we're after. It was his and his family's quest to help people feel better in their lives and help to empower them to achieve the goals and dreams they had for themselves, that More Hair Naturally was born. And they believe that the stronger you are as a person, the more likely you are to become a positive impact in the world and with your friends, your family, and all those that you encounter in the world. More Hair Naturally's ultimate goal is to help people achieve this. So without further ado, welcome to the show. All right, Mahryah Shain, welcome to the Visibly Fit podcast.
Hello. So great to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Yeah, you know, this is so great because I have not talked on this topic before, hair loss, hair growth. And what better way to have someone share about this than you with More Hair Naturally? And so I'm excited to have you because this is a topic that is very sensitive for some people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And let's just kind of maybe start off by talking about your passion and how this all got started.
Okay, yeah. So it was a family venture, basically. My father, every male in my family is bald. Just every cousin, every grandfather, every distant relative, all the men bald. So my father was like, I'm gonna beat this. I'm gonna beat this trend in our family. And he started searching out like ways, basically. And our family's always been very holistic and natural in our approach to life. We've always, believed in foods, and we always believed in like exercise. We've always believed in vitamins and supplemental nutrition. That's just always been our approach. We've always eaten organically, non-GMO. That's always been how we just approached our life. So when my father started looking, there wasn't really anything on the market other than like, rub onions on your head or, kind of random stuff like this, which actually the science of it, there's some validity in that, but it's not going to work that way. But there is validity in like the sulfur content of onions and hair, but that's different.
Sure. But you'll have a stinky head, but other than that,
you'd have a stinky head and probably no friends for a long time. So basically he started going down the conventional path of like the conventional drug products, which is the most popular and which are the most common, which have been around for a very, very long time. And he started getting awful side effects. His hair wasn't growing back. He, started like having weird body issues. He actually started developing like little breasts as well because of the hormone changes and stuff, and that freaked him out as it should have. And he's like, okay, enough. And my mom's from Italy, and she had a cousin there who mentioned this little lab in the Lake Como area that was doing some pretty cool stuff in the natural arena for hair loss. And so he got some of that, and it started, working, and it was very exciting. And then
And he
Eventually,
stopped growing man boobs.
he stopped growing man boobs.
Which was
Yeah,
important.
which was very important. He was very happy about that as well. And it started working. And then through that experience and through the family connection we had over there in Italy, we became the sole distributors for that product in the United States.
Very cool. And how long has that been now?
Well, that was back in like 1999. So that was a while ago. So how that essentially was working and what that was doing is, should I get into like the basic mechanics of hair loss so to help understand?
Definitely, because and also, you know, most of my listeners are female. I do have some male listeners as well,
Great.
but they may, you know, be married to someone that is going having balding issues. But there's so many women too that are dealing with
So many
yeah.
women.
Let's talk about the science of baldness.
So many women.
Yeah.
Okay, so there and this will tie back to like that product and how we're what we're looking at now.
Sure.
There's many causes for men and women of hair loss. There's hormonal, there's medications, there's environmental, there's stress, and then there's like diseases and physical actual ailments, all which can lead to hair loss. But the most common for men and women is it's when our body breaks down testosterone. We all have the male hormone testosterone. And when our body breaks that down, it creates a byproduct called DHT. Now, this isn't a big deal. It's generally just excreted through the body, nothing. However, as it passes by our follicles have on them, for a visual, little potholes. These are just little receptor sites. And this is actually the inherited trait of hair loss. It's these little potholes on the follicle. So now, as the DHT passes by these follicles, it gets stuck in these, it gets stuck in the molecule, it gets stuck in potholes.
Yeah.
And then as it gets stuck, the blood flow starts to get decreased. So as more and more gets stuck, the blood flow gets less and less, the follicle gets weaker and weaker, hair gets thinner and thinner, and eventually it dies. So that's, in a nutshell, that's essentially what is happening. So now this product we got from Italy, the sole focus was removing the DHT from that follicle and letting the blood flow back to the follicle naturally. And then in doing so, it would rebuild and heal the follicle, and the follicle would start to produce its own healthy hair again. So it did this. One of the main ingredients used to do this was called hyaluronic acid, which is found in your eyeballs, your joints. It's in a lot of skin creams. It's a very moisturizing substance. And we were using a pharmaceutical grade of that, so it's very strong. And what that would do is it would coat the follicle, and the DHT molecules would slip off, and it would the hyaluronic acid would leave a little coating behind, so future DHT wouldn't build up, and then the blood would start flowing back to the follicle. And this was working better than anything we'd ever seen in the natural world, and it was great. However, what was happening is that it wasn't coming back strong enough and fast enough for us. It was working, but we wanted something better. So what we started doing at that point, we started researching just the medical journals from around the world to find out what's happening in this field of hair growth, and what's happening in the field of thinning hair. Because the popular minoxidils, finasteride, propitias, all those drugs which come with them,
major side
effects and not very good success rates, those were all entered into the market in the 70s. So we're like, there's got to, like, so from 1970,
be a better way. Yeah.
So in all those years, science did not stop researching hair loss. It just didn't.
And to find a natural way.
In a natural way, exactly. So we start just researching. We found in like medical journals all over the world these incredible results that are being found in the field of thinning hair. And we basically, and it had to do with like a lot of botanicals, a lot of botanical stem cells and extracts and probiotics and amino acid complexes, all these great things. And so we were like, well, what if we took all these ingredients and combined them into one product you know, because they're all producing results. None of them are in products. These are just lab studies. What if we took them all, put them in one product at the clinical strength that was producing results, and made something like that? Like, would that work? Would that? It sounds like it would, but would it? And so we're in California, and we contracted a lab out here in California. We moved all our operations to California, and we're like, let's figure this out. And it took about 3 years until we kind of figured out like the how to do it. The lab figured out how to do it. We were just like, you know, our job was just, hey, did you get it yet?
Yeah, right.
Hey, can you add
Hurry
this
up, hurry
ingredient?
up.
Yeah. I'm not like sitting back here like, let me shake up that beaker too. But you know, but our lab was doing it, and we did it, and we did it. So that's where we're at now with our products. So now we're not only focusing on getting that DHT off and getting the blood flowing back to it, but we're focusing on using all these incredible nutrients to rebuild it as well. So we got the blood flowing back to it, and we're naturally helping it rebuild faster.
And so the results that you've seen, give me like a before and after results scenario. Give me a story of someone using.
We have lots of photos on our website,
Okay.
from clients,
Okay.
on morehairnaturally.com. Lots of
Yeah.
photos, but I mean, because I still talk to clients like almost every day. We have a team here. We're a small but mighty group, but I still every day will take a couple client calls.
And what do you do on those calls when you're talking to your clients?
It's a handful of things. A lot of times a lot of it's just listening, especially if it's a new client, because it's emotional. It's hard, especially for women, because
your confidence.
it does. It's really hard on the confidence, and unfortunately, society, it's not like a man is more. It's more accepted for a man in our society, and it's less accepted for women in terms of like image standards, you know.
Sure.
So a lot of it is like listening and trying to figure out like what's actually causing it, because sometimes it's like a diet issue.
Yes,
you know.
I was going to say there's so much that could be missing from their diet, from B vitamins to amino acids to zinc to just getting D, E. I mean, just all of it, right?
All of it, yeah.
So,
all of it. It's true. Sometimes it's that, and sometimes, you know, and if we can help in that area, we do. Sometimes there's like, sometimes just knowing what it is also gives like kind of some relief. Like if like, you know, if somebody's on a lot of medications, they might not know that those medications have the side effect, you know, of thinning hair, and knowing that like, okay, so it's the medications. So maybe if I take these actions over here, you know, we would never tell someone to stop taking medications, but if you take these actions over here, it could help counteract that. But at least, you know, it's not like you're doomed to this for life. You know that, okay, I have a solution that I can handle, I can use to handle it.
Well, and so much of it, as you know, because you have a healthy lifestyle yourself, it's as you're talking with these clients, you're actually encouraging them to have a healthy lifestyle, which hopefully would get them off of those medications that are causing the side effects, so that their hair could even have the opportunity to regrow. But with More Hair Naturally, those that aren't on meds and are just in kind of a place of the genetic makeup, this is just how I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
You give them hope. You give them hope to say, no, that's not the case.
Right.
You're just missing this couple key ingredients that could turn back on those receptors and those follicles and regenerate hair growth. Now, I'm gonna say this only for those that are listening, and you know I adore you, so I'm not picking on you.
Yeah.
But you don't have a full head of hair, right?
I don't.
And so let's talk about that, because that might be kind of tough. You know, here you are promoting More Hair Naturally, but you don't have a full head of hair. So how would you have been prior to More Hair Naturally?
Well, like I said, everyone in my family all the men are just bald.
Cool.
So it's like I feel like, okay, I'm ahead of the game at least. You know, I'm staying in there. But I get it, and it makes sense too. Like I should have like a lion's mane, you know, while I'm talking about the products. but the truth is that like, and honestly, I've thought of that too. I've
Have
thought
you?
of that,
I mean, that's
but
kind of an
I
authentic,
have
raw
because
question. So thank you for
because
allowing me to ask,
no,
actually.
no, and just I don't have secrets, you know.
Yeah.
So the truth is I've had that consideration because here I am. I have this company that I'm very, very proud of. I have these products that I'm so proud of, you know, and yet I don't have that blazing full head of hair that
Not
everyone's
yet.
like
Not
shooting
yet.
for. Not yet, not yet. But like, but like but then I was like, well, what would I do? Would I have like a spokesperson come on who
Doesn't
isn't
have the
like
passion. Yeah,
doesn't have the passion
I
or
get
doesn't
it.
care? Like, 'cause I care, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think it's important to talk and to get the word out and that to help people and to help people
Yeah.
improve their lives. So I
Well,
was
you
like,
know the impact
yeah,
firsthand of what baldness can feel like, right? So you have
yeah,
compassion.
sure.
You know through just the lineage of your family how it's affected them,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
and how maybe they would have shown up differently had they
Yeah,
had a full head of hair, which seems
sure.
like so superficial, but yet it's not. It's just kind of
It
like
isn't
a
it
good smile makes you feel more
right.
confident, right?
Absolutely. Sure, it is. And you know, it's tricky because it's easy to say it's superficial, but the superficial affects the internal, unfortunately. Like if you put on like a nice suit, or in your case like a slamming dress,
Yeah,
you're like,
slam and
oh,
duress. I like that. Yeah,
you're like, oh yeah,
smoking hot. Yeah.
you're like, it's on, versus like, oh, I'm wearing the same sweats I've wore all weekend and haven't really
Wearing a
showered.
moo. Yeah.
You know, it's a little bit of a different, it's like a different, you know, you're still you, but it's
Right.
different, you
Yeah,
know.
you
And then
show up
same,
differently.
yeah, you show up differently. You put on like, you know, you put on a like a nice suit or like that like killer jacket, you're like, oh yeah, it's happening, you
That's
know,
good.
versus
That's
like,
good.
you know, your schlubby t-shirt, you're like,
Right.
might go, you know, dig a dirt in the yard, dig a hole in the yard. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a
yeah.
different,
And that's what hair
yeah,
can do for you. So when
yeah,
is there a time where it's like too far gone where
yeah,
more hair naturally would not assist? Or
absolutely. There
okay,
is.
let's talk about that
Um,
for a minute.
slick, shiny bald. That's
Okay.
the indicator that the follicles have died. And
Okay.
if the follicles have died, there's nothing that can be done because there's no follicle to heal. There's
That would
no
be transplant time.
that would be transplant time, but
Yeah.
be wary and be careful in that arena because they don't always hold. They're very painful, they're very expensive, and if you pick the wrong doctor, they're going to look terrible and you're
Right.
stuck with them. You know,
Yeah.
so but that is transplant time. However, I will say this, transplants are getting better these days. The science has come quite along.
So how would you pre-qualify somebody and how would they fully know just when X amount of hairs are coming out every day, or you know, how would they start to say, "Ooh, maybe I'm a good candidate for this"?
The earlier the better. If you have like if someone has excessive shedding, like shedding is part of life, it's
Sure.
part of the hair growth cycle, so it's just part of it. But if it's excessive and you can start to see scalp where you couldn't see scalp before, that's when you want to jump on. You know, that's when you really want to start tackling the issue, because if you wait too long, because eventually the follicles are going to die. That's the thing with hair loss, is that it just gets worse. It
Right.
doesn't get better on its own. I mean, unless it's an external cause and
Right.
it's a temporary thing, like, you
Like a
know, like,
deficiency in a
yeah,
nutrient, or yeah.
yeah, or like, after giving birth or breastfeeding, a lot of women will experience hair loss,
Right.
but
Or cancer.
most of the time it'll come back. Cancer, um, it can come back. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
And like we do have a lot of people who use us in those scenarios, but it's not long term. You
Right.
know, like
Okay.
cancer, they'll just use us during and a little bit after treatment, and then stop. You
Yeah.
know,
Well, let's talk a little bit on, you know, I know you say that the ingredients are all natural. I want to talk about that because ingredients are a big thing
big
uh,
thing.
for me as well. And in
Yeah,
fact, I'll go to ewg.org a lot and check out different um, ingredients and different
Sure.
cleaning products or skincare. So you can
So,
go, if you're listening, to ewg.org/skin deep, and you can check out ingredients for skincare and even hair care products to give you a lot of ease, hopefully, or dis-ease if you're seeing something that is like, oh, this is really what will happen, a disease, if I don't get rid of this. So More Hair Naturally, I did research, and it is way low on the scale, which is very encouraging as far as being toxic and
right,
that kind of thing. So it's very on the scale of between 1 and 3, as opposed to all the way up to 10, which is fantastic.
right.
So that's good to know. But you use different stem cells, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I want to just clear the air there, because a lot of people get freaked out when they hear the word stem cells.
Sure, of course.
Let's talk about where your stem cells come from, and
Okay.
so it can put people at ease.
Yeah, great. Good question.
Yeah.
So all all of the stem cells we use, and we use quite a bit, in each product has different variations, and they're all chosen because they have been shown in lab studies to produce the results that we're looking to achieve with that particular product. Now, they're all botanical, except for one. We do use an adipose-derived stem cell in one of our products, and that's adipose-derived stem cells comes from adults 18 to 35, and it's donated from fat cells.
Yeah.
Which, when you describe it that way, it sounds a little gross. But it's kind of like like when people donate blood or plasma. It's kind of in that same area. And the reason why we put this in, it's just in our More Hair Naturally 9 product. And the reason why we put it in that is because, and that was the first one we developed when we made the changeover. And the reason why is because it just kept showing up as having these incredible results on the hair follicle. Now, I don't know, I'm not a stem cell expert, so I don't know like, oh, this stem cell is going to be helpful in this area of your body, this area of your body, this area of your body. All I know is that in our research, this kept showing up as being amazing for helping the follicle.
Yeah.
And if someone looks up adipose-derived, just adipose-derived stem cells, they'll see that it generally associates it with hair and with the hair follicle.
Perfect. Yep.
But it is from adult males. It is a donated thing, and it is from fat cells.
Yeah.
I said males, not males. Adults.
Adults. Yeah.
Adults, not males.
I wanted to just point that out because of the fear so much that comes with stem cells, of course, with.
Yeah.
So we don't even have to
No,
go there.
we get that question. We get that question a lot because it is a very sensitive topic, and a lot of times people just want to make sure that that's not where we're at with it.
Right.
And so
right.
we do. That's a very common question,
Yeah,
and
good.
so much so that at times we've considered removing that particular stem cell from the More Hair Naturally 9. But it is very ethical. It's donated. Sure. It's from adults, and it has such great results that we're like, no, it really works. We'll just help people understand that.
Educate.
Yeah, we'll just educate, and we'll keep with it because it's great.
Yeah, no, that's so good. Well, awesome. Well, what about people that are using things like infrared laser caps and different things like that in conjunction with your product? Is that a good idea? Is it, or what are your thoughts on those kind of items?
Well, here's, in general, as a company and personally, any action that you're taking to make your life better is a good action.
Yeah.
So we you got to take control of your life. And if you see a situation in your life that you want handled, take an action. Just do it. You know what I mean? Just do it, because you'll feel better. The worst, I think it was like Theodore Roosevelt who said, the best thing you can do is the right choice. The next best thing you can do is the wrong choice. And the absolute worst thing you can do is nothing.
Is nothing. Right.
Is nothing.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
like how he said it. The best thing you could do is the right choice. The next best thing you could do is the wrong choice.
Because you
He
learn.
did- yeah, he didn't say like making the wrong choice is bad. He
Right.
called it the next best choice
Yeah.
is the
No,
wrong.
that's
And then
good.
he said the worst thing you can do is nothing.
Yeah.
So like it all helps. I mean, ideally you want to do stuff that's going to give you like a better lifestyle, a
Like eat well,
healthier.
exercise,
Yeah,
stress less, all those
yeah.
things, sleep.
But if you make a choice and you act on it, good.
Yeah.
You know,
No, that's good.
good. Because then you'll make another choice and you'll act on it, and you'll make another choice and you'll act on it. And eventually your life's going to be where it started here, you're going to be here, and you won't even know how you did it. You're gonna be like, whoa, things are just better all of a sudden.
Yeah. That's so cool. I
But
love that.
like specifically though for like lasers and stuff, lasers are, yeah, it's great. We don't have any issues. We think it all
Kind of
we think it all
compounding
helps. Yeah.
different tools. Yeah. Yeah.
No, sometimes when people are using like the Rogaines and minoxidils, I mean, a lot of times people come to us because they don't want to use those, or they're
Because they will
trying
have to continue to use those
for
because
life.
once they
Exactly.
for life and then they cause so much
Yeah,
dis-ease in the body.
and we actually help people wean off it too. We have people
Oh,
calling us who are on it and want to get off of it, and then we have a whole process to help them
oh, that's great.
gradually wean so they don't just like lose everything instantly.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Mhm.
But the only thing that we don't like to people using in conjunction with our products are anything that contains a harsh chemical. Like for instance, like the Rogaines, the minoxidils, like all those are very harsh chemicals. A lot of styling products can be very harsh and have a lot of hard chemicals in it. In that case, we just recommend like using your styling products in the morning and then using us in the evening. And the reason is that since we are a natural product, sometimes those chemicals can pose a potential like risk to some of
More
our
harm than good.
ingredients,
Yeah,
or they can also hurt our ingredients, which means
for
our
sure.
products won't be as strong, you know?
Well, there so many of them are toxic anyway,
Yeah, they're toxic.
right? From the
Yeah,
hairsprays to the gels to the
yeah,
whatever you use. It's best to steer clear from all of it if you can and be
yeah,
natural, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Always.
So there's something to be said about that. Now, what about you know, I was thinking about DHEA, right?
Mhm,
Which can block, DHT, right? Can
mhm,
help. Okay.
sure,
But and it increases testosterone.
sure.
But sometimes when you're taking something like a DHEA, it can also, even though it's blocking the DHT, it can actually start to produce more uh, of of the DHT in the long run, which is kind of crazy. Do
Yeah,
you know
it's
much about that?
well, I don't know too much about the mechanics of that.
Of DHEA? Okay.
I do know in general, we try to discourage anybody from changing their hormone levels. And the reason why, okay, so I'm not a doctor,
Yeah. But I'm with
you
you.
know,
I'm already
and,
talking. Yeah. Go ahead.
and if a doctor is telling you to do something, I'm not going to counteract what your doctor is telling you. I mean, ultimately, it's a personal decision, and you
Right.
have to take responsibility for your life and decide what's best for your path and your health and your
Sure.
being. But I've always believed in our company philosophy is that our bodies have been functioning for millions of years, and there are miracles of operations. So every little thing that goes into our body and happens to our body, it's all
Synergistically working.
synergistically
Yes, that's good.
connected. You know what
Yes.
I mean? So
Mhm.
like, so I say like DHT is just excreted, which it is. Um, but honestly, we don't know what balance is achieved because DHT is going through your body. We
Mhm.
know that it doesn't do very good when it like latches onto your follicles and prevents blood flowing to the follicles, but overall in your body, we don't know. Like maybe it's because the DHT mixes with something else and mixes with something else that gives your immune system a little stronger boost. We don't know that,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So we don't want anyone changing their body chemistry for any reason. Because I think, we just we
Well,
don't.
people will take drastic measures uh, to look and sometimes feel a certain way, right?
Yeah, of course.
So
And
yeah.
we try to help them not take drastic measures.
Yeah, yeah, to do it
Yeah.
naturally. That's so good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious about also just, I guess, talking about this is kind of odd, but brushing hair. Like my dad used to, when I was a little girl, I would sit in front of his chair when he was watch TV or whatever, and he would brush my hair 100 times, like every
Sure.
night. And
Yeah.
so it would stimulate hair growth. But at the time, I didn't think of that. I just thought, oh, he's just brushing my hair. This is what we do. And so,
Yeah.
but for all these years, I've brushed my hair a lot.
Uh-huh.
And
Do you still
so
count it? Do you still
I,
count it 100
I kind
times?
of just know. I kind of just know
Okay.
the time,
Okay. Yeah.
but it's probably around 100 strokes. But men and some women nowadays, I don't know that they brush their hair as much. Let's talk about that for a minute. And have
I
you
have
thought about that?
never thought about that.
Okay.
I do know that my wife went through this phase. A friend of hers told her something like that.
Mm,
And so she didn't stick with it, but she did go through a phase. I don't know if it was 100, but it was some like very specific number. And every night she would brush her hair for a certain number, and then she started doing it on my daughters, and then I don't know, she just
yeah.
dropped it. But
But
honestly,
guys don't brush their hair much. Think about that.
yeah, they don't. That's true. There is something to be said about the scalp stimulation though, because
Hmm.
that's a big part of it.
Right.
Is that, and that's a very helpful element. So there is something to be said about
And do
that.
you teach your clients to do that as well, to stimulate the scalp?
We
Is
do.
that
We
part of
we
it?
we tell them as part of the application process to massage their scalp for 30
Hmm.
seconds, and for two reasons. One is to get someone to set up a routine of constant stimulation. It's
Yeah.
easier if it's part of like a routine. So you
Yeah.
you apply the product, and by massage, it's move the scalp against the skull, because the goal is to increase blood circulation, not just like rub the head, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
So we do actually tell that it's on actually all of our directions as well, because it's important. Not only does it help the product absorb a little bit better, but it also is going to help with your general scalp health.
Yeah. That's
About
good.
that.
Well, this is, I mean, it's fascinating, really, that first of all, that you had the passion to figure out a natural formula, because there are so many products out there on the market, and they're just, yeah, they may be producing hair, but in the long run, they're producing disease, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
of the side effects. And there's no side effects with what you have brought to the table. And so, thank you for you and your family for having the passion and the fortitude to figure it out. You know, that's what
yeah,
it takes. It's like
yeah.
who's on this mission? Well, Mahryah is. And so super, yeah, you get the medal. Like, this is exciting. Like, somebody needs to be the forerunner and helping others figure out a natural way of having this solution, you know.
Mhm.
And there are, you know, like you said, there's many different spokes to the wheel, from nutrition
Right.
to stress and all of that. But if you could also put on this solution, and it can help maintain and even restart new hair follicle growth, if it's not completely
Yeah.
dead, if the follicle's not dead, then great. That will boost uh, your confidence. Think about how that
Mhm.
even works in relationships. Let's talk about that really quickly before I let
Sure.
you go here. But because relationships, how you show up in a relationship is a big deal, whether it's your spouse or with your kids or just even
Mhm.
in society. But let's talk about, like, just with, you know, your friends or spouse or even your kids, but how hair makes a big difference.
It does. Well, I think it's not necessarily the hair. I
Right.
think
It's how you
it's
feel.
how you feel.
Yeah.
It's all those elements that add to you and your own personal sense of well-being,
It's knowing
and
who you are
yeah, and
to the
I mean,
core, really. But
it's all connected, it's
yeah,
all connected. But ultimately it's like when you're feeling good about yourself, it's so much easier to be more open and receptive and present.
right.
Whereas when you're introverted about, your appearance, or something about your physical body, or your day even,
Yeah.
you automatically become withdrawn.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to communicate to somebody on any level, and you're like withdrawn, your heart's closed, and you're not going to be present and be able to
Right.
really communicate and engage, you
That's it.
know
That's
and
it.
also the attention's on you. Like it's hard to be present when you're thinking about yourself, you
That's
know?
good, Mahryah. Right. Right. That's so, so good. Like that's powerful. That whole message right there, because I think of so many of my patients that, they won't even get into a photograph because they don't like the way they look or whatever.
Yeah,
Right.
I know
And
that.
so, and then, years later, they're like, oh, wow, where was mom in all these pictures? Or, oh, she was just
Mhm.
taking them because she never wanted to be in them because she didn't feel confident or like she was worthy enough to be in them. And anyway, it's psychological, but it's a heart issue too. So I'm glad you're bringing that up because
You know what,
that's a big
you know
piece
what's
of it.
funny about that? And
What?
it's a constant, like ongoing lesson. So like I'll look at pictures of myself from years ago. And I'll remember that picture. And I'll remember like, oh, I really hated how I looked
Oh,
when I took that picture. But then I look at the picture and I'm like, oh, it's not that bad
right.
now, But I remember like I'll
You're like,
have
hey,
some
I look pretty good.
yeah, I'll have some pictures like hidden away, and
Yeah.
I'll take them out, and I'll be like, I was like, oh, this isn't a bad picture. But then but I know that when I first got it back, I was like, oh, this is terrible. I look ridiculous. Let me just, So it's like our perceptions of ourselves are lies. They're not true.
Right.
They're just
Right.
not true. You
Right.
know, like
Right.
like if I could just never listen to myself,
Right.
I think I'd be in good shape.
Yeah, well, that's just it, and that's
You
why
know?
we have to know our identity, know who we are in Christ, and
Yeah.
walk that out, and say those positive affirmations because
Yeah.
we do, just human nature. We listen to the lies too often, so you just have to put up the truths of who you are
And
instead of
here's the
listening to
thing,
the
we
lies.
all know the truth.
Yeah,
We
right.
all know it.
Yeah,
It's in us. It's part of
right,
us. It's connected to us.
right.
The secret is we hear it and then we crush it.
Don't believe it.
Yeah, we don't believe it.
Yeah.
And there's that Mel Roberts has that 5 second
Oh,
rule
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
cover.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. But there's real truth in that. I mean,
Sure.
there's truth in it because we get the thought and the thought's pure. The thought's inspired, it's divine. It doesn't come from anywhere that we can explain or justify. It's just there.
Right.
And we don't listen. We're like, oh, that can't be true. Oh no, that's not right. But if we
Yeah.
can act on it before we start saying all that junk that's like self-inflicted,
Yeah.
then we'll be in pretty good shape. I mean, I'm still working on that.
Well, for
That's
sure. We
something
all
that's
will
a
be.
goal. That's
We
a
all will
goal.
be till the day we die, I believe, because that's
Yeah.
human nature.
Yeah.
But luckily, we there's a way to know the truth, right? And to
Yeah.
dive in to God's word and to be strong and knowing that truth. But I love your mission, and I love that you are wanting to put hair on people's heads and not about. I mean, seriously, like I know that's so
Yeah.
crazy, but we haven't had this conversation on this podcast before, but it is an important conversation to have, and there is a science behind baldness, and to really understand that you're not
Absolutely.
alone is and that there's hope. I think will really speak to somebody that's listening today. So
For
thank you
sure.
so very much
Oh
for
yeah.
being on. And those of you that are listening, Mahryah does have a special for you guys. You'll put in, I'll put a link into the show notes, right, Mahryah?
Yeah.
And you can just put in Visibly Fit 12, and you will get a 12% discount on his awesome products. So check that out. And but Mahryah, you're adorable, and I appreciate you, and thank you for taking the time. And just yeah, I'll we'll probably have another conversation. Maybe we'll have another follow up, because I'd love to
Great.
maybe even hear some of the before and afters that you've worked with, because I think that would offer some hope.
Great. I love that. That'd be fun.
Yeah. All right, cool. Thank you. Take care. Blessings.
Yeah. Bye.
All right, bye-bye. All right. I sure hope you enjoyed this episode of Visibly Fit with Mahryah Shain, and hearing all about that there is hope if you are dealing with hair loss. Again, go to the website that is in the show notes, and I will take you directly to the site, and make sure you use Visibly Fit 12 to get 12% off of your order. And that would be fantastic. So thank you so much for tuning in. Again, I hope this blessed you, and share it with others, and make sure you give a rating and a review. All right. Thanks so much. God bless. We'll catch you next time. Well, that's a wrap for today's show. So thank you so much for tuning in. I love spending this time with you. To learn more and get more free resources, just head on over to wendiepett.com. And thank you in advance for sharing this episode and this podcast, following and subscribing, not only to this podcast, but finding me on social media, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you are, I'm probably there too. Until next week and our next podcast time together, make it a visibly fit day.